My name's Mike. I work in product development at Bass Pro and Cabela's, and the Fly Guys asked me to tie a cicada pattern. It's supposed to be a good year for cicadas, and I've come up with a pretty simple one. There's a lot of complicated ones. This one is really simple and it just works. We start with a Gamakatsu B10 stinger hook. It's a wide gape hook, about a number 6 for this type of cicada. This is one of the black cicadas, and so all we're going to use a little bit of dubbing, black dubbing, any kind, doesn't matter. Some black thin fly foam, and what I generally do is, I pre-cut some little abdomens. This piece is roughly like 1 inch long by about 1/2 inch wide. You can go on the internet and get an idea of the body shape of the abdomen of a cicada. And in the thorax, I use just a piece of the foam that I've cut approximately about 2 inches by 1/2 inch. And then saddle hackle, webby saddle hackle. Because this fly is made out of foam, the soft hackle doesn't have to support it. It can kind of dangle and move in the water, so that's a plus. And then for the wing we're just doing a silhouette, and basically on a deer tail or a buck tail, you've got the underside that's white, and then there's a brown part on the top of the tail, the brown hair, that a lot of times we throw out for stuff or we might use for stoneflies. That's what I'm using for the wing. And the wing, rather than doing a sheeted material, if you get a crinkly bucktail, rather than a straight one, but a crinkly one, this really, in terms of a profile, when a fish is looking up at it, if you use just a little bit of that, it kind of describes the veins in the wings. And that's all you want is a suggestion. So you get your fat body, big old tear-shaped body, and some of this just touching on the water and get it the right length where it looks like wings. You got the legs, and that's all I need. Just start my thread, and I'm using black. Just because I got black. Everybody's got black, okay? So I get it started on there, and I pretty much wrap over the whole shank just so that the materials I tie on here aren't sitting on a slick shank. Trim off my extra. And the first thing I'm gonna do is take a little bit of this dubbing, and I'm just gonna do what I call a weenie dubbing. I'm just gonna grind some of this onto the thread. All dubbing really is taking a material like this and twisting it onto the thread so you end up with like a chenille or a body wrap, like yay. And I'm gonna start that right about where the flat part of the hook starts to bend, and I'm gonna run it, about halfway up the hook shank is all. And what this is gonna do when I put some glue in here later is it's gonna give something, the glue to stick the bucktail to the body, to the foam. And I'm just adding a little bit more because that looked a little bit kind of thin to me. But you're really not going to see this part, so it's not that technical, but just about half of the shank is dubbing. Then I take my little pre-cut abdomen, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to stab that hook right through the center of the fat part of that abdomen. That's where the hook's going to come out on the bottom of the fly. So I just find the center, and I poke it through like yay. But see where that is? That's just floating around there. I'm gonna come up here and I'm gonna tie the front of this tab. If you see the front of the tab is kind of flat, that's the part I'm gonna tie up here. So this is underneath the hook, okay? Dubbing on top, foam underneath. And I'm just gonna capture that foam like that. See how I've got a nice flat body. Here again, it doesn't have to be it doesn't need to be thick the other way, it just needs to be fat this way, so when the fish really gets the silhouette. So this is just simple. Plus, this flat platform allows the fly to sit flat. I mean, if you throw it out there and it happens to land upside down, you just throw a twitch mend and it just rights itself. It's like got like a little sailboat keels, it's where the hook is. So that's just a design feature. The next thing I'm gonna do is take some of my bucktail, some of that dark bucktail, and the length of the wing is going to come out quite a ways. If you look on the internet and look at these guys, the wing comes quite a bit further out past the end of the body, okay? It's not like a caddisfly. And so you want to make sure you get enough wing. And the wing actually sits out kind of like a delta, and you don't need a bunch. Where I've got just enough to give that little suggestion of a wing, doesn't interfere with the fishing of the fly or the function of the fly, you don't have too big a wad of hair. You get it tied down to the hook properly so it doesn't come loose. So it doesn't really take much at all, but you want to get the length right. So that's sticking out past the end of the hook. It's a pretty small, manageable wad. I'm going to make sure that I get a couple thread wraps on the hook so this bucktail doesn't spin around. And I'm just going to put it on top. And I'm going to get a couple just controlling wraps. I haven't cinched down yet. Now I'm going to go ahead and cinch down a little bit. And I'm going to take this and press it down with my thumb so that it splays out. So it goes out to the side a little bit. And it may get splayed out a little too much, but when you're false casting and fishing it, it brings it back in. So splaying it out a little too much to start with doesn't hurt a thing, doesn't hurt a thing. So I'm taking my Webby saddle hackle. I really don't need all the super fluffy marabou stuff at the bottom, but I don't want to waste any of this webbing. How I do it, you can strip the, a lot of people strip the feather off and tie it in. I find if I just stroke some of these out and cut them off, then I kind of have bristles to get my thread on, and this feather won't pull out as good. When it's just a slick shank, sometimes you'll get it wrapping it and it'll pull out. Tie it in, bring my wraps back to the front of the body. See the bucktail's tied in right there? This is tied in the same place, and I'm allowing room in the front to get my thorax on there and also to finish the fly. We don't want to crowd ourselves. That's the biggest mistake we do tying flies is we crowd ourselves at the head, and then it just becomes a mess. End up with glue in your eye and everything. So I'm not even using hackle pliers because this is pretty long hackle here, but you just want to get the suggestion of some legs here. So I get it wrapped kind of in the same area there. I pull my thread behind and capture it, and I pull all the legs back that I want to keep and choke up on this a little bit. And just tie that down good. Get rid of the tag end. And the next thing I'll be tying in is the thorax. This strip here, not a lot to it, but one thing I do right before I tie it in, is where I'm going to tie it in, I take and kind of cut a couple angular tabs like that. That's what I'm going to tie in. It would be pretty hard to tie this fat end in. So I'm just making a little tab there. And I'm going to try to hold all these hackles out of the way so they don't get messed up. But I'm going to put this on top and not get too close to the eye. And when you're doing foam, it's good to start with some gathering wraps. Don't try to just honk down on it right away. Get the wraps gathered, and your subsequent wraps will compress that foam and you won't have a lot of buildup. But I'm going to try to move my thread back where I'm right up in front of the saddle hackle where the legs are. So I got to get everything out of the way. And I'm going to go back, gather a little more of the foam. Okay, that's about good. So that's what it looks like. This is going to be my abdomen. So I'm going to go up to just behind the eye. I'm going to try to leave myself a little bit. And this part here, you want this at the back of this abdomen to go far enough back. This is a compact little bug. You don't want the abdomen way up in front like that. So I've made it 2 inches long so I can just sit here and pinch it and back it up until I get it back, probably close to even with the tip of the hook is where the back of the abdomen is. And I come in here and pinch it, and I make some gathering wraps. I don't cinch, don't honk down on it right away, just start cinching it down and holding it right on top there so it doesn't go around the hook. And then you can start cinching down, and it's pretty good. And then, at this point, you can pull this back out of the way like yay, and get some wraps in front. That'll kind of jam it. Then you go back and put that down, and pinch it down a little bit and get a few more wraps on there. Now I'm going to glue this with Zap-A-Gap cement. I like this better than regular super glue because it's got more viscosity. If you use a thinner super glue, what happens is a lot of times it'll wick down through your soft hackles here and just turn them stiff, and ends up going a bunch of places you don't want it to go. You want to just kind of take your time, stay away from your thread with your scissors. Rule number 1, just start trimming some of this off. Now you can leave some tabs on here if you want, you don't have to, I mean, if you're sitting there and it's the night before you're going fishing, you don't have to be that neat. about it. You just want to make sure that you got enough foam trimmed away that you can get your leader through the hook eye. Here again. So that is pretty good right there. So I'm going to go ahead and tie that off. Here's a whip finish. And this fly, as is right now, no glue, no anything will fish just fine. But something I do for durability, I've got one of these that I saved that I've probably caught 20 fish on, and other than just having teeth marks in it and everything, it managed to hang together just because I put a little glue on it. So take my Zap-A-Gap, lift that abdomen up, and just very little, and then just hold it down for a couple seconds. And what that does is that's going to join the foam to the bucktail, to the wraps underneath, and it'll keep this whole thing from riding around on the hook. I take t-shirt paint, this puff t-shirt paint, and put little eyes on there. So we can do that, but it doesn't need it to fish because your profile is going to be that. And that a fish can see 20 feet away, and they will come 20 feet for this fly if they see it. Finished product looks something like that. And they're just so big and so many calories. It's like an Omaha steak truck going over on the interstate. I mean, they're just all about it, you know. So anyway, pretty simple tie. And as I understand it, they're supposed to be coming off pretty good this year. So anyway, go out and enjoy.